Welcome to another show of the 24 Hour Boss podcast. This is Brian Hill, and on this show, we talk business, online marketing, and even side hustles. There's also the subjects in business that we discuss that relate to personal development, such as leadership, customer service, or even communication skills. Today, I want to talk about the subject of integrity. Integrity is a character that should be not only exhibited in business, but it should also be exhibited in life. No matter where you find yourself in life, whether you're a doctor, professor, athlete, or even a clerk at a store, you should be living, walking, and breathing in integrity. This is something that should be on display in your life. And I wanted to do something a little different with this episode, or with this show. With Father's Day being this weekend, I wanted to do a podcast episode giving tribute to my father and talk about some of the lessons of integrity that I learned from him. I watched my dad work hard to provide for me and my siblings. I guess I can give a shout out to my siblings, Michelle, Charles, and Derek. I love you guys very much. We grew up, of course, having great time, great fun. Of course, there was things we struggled with in life, but my mom and dad, they worked both of them worked hard to provide for us. We didn't have much growing up, but the things that we did have growing up was that our parents provided for us. They gave us discipline and love. And in regard to my dad, he was definitely a man's man. He worked hard. He provided for us. It was just great for us just to be able to, get our favorite cereal on his paydays. I mean, I can remember him coming in from work, and on those Fridays, he had Captain Crunch cereal and milk, and we were just so excited just to have that. Just such some great times that we had. But I wanted to just, like I said, I wanted to talk about some lessons that I learned from my dad. And so December 1st, 2013 was probably one of the hardest, saddest days of my life. This is the day that my dad, he passed away. And, it's kind of weird how it all happened. The circumstances, how it happened, it's really weird. It seems like it was like a book or a movie. And my dad, he was a pastor, and we had just had a service that we celebrated his 25th church anniversary of him being pastor. So, we had a great service for him. We celebrated him on this day. And we had a pretty good time. And after the service, I was looking for him to talk to him like I normally do after service, or after church service. I normally just go and talk with him and chat with him. We just talk about whatever. And I was looking for him and couldn't find him. And I was wondering, where is he at? Because it's after the service. Where is he at? Couldn't find him. And so I asked my mom. I'm like, "Hey, Mom, where is Dad at?" And she stated that he had left the service prior to go home to get some medicine. And okay. Thought that was kind of strange that he would do that. But, I didn't really think anything. But that is very uncharacteristic of him, to leave a service and kind of not return. And so he left to go and get some medicine. But I wasn't thinking anything like that. And so after about 15 or 20 minutes, he still hadn't shown up. And but I didn't really, I guess, pay attention to it, because we were there still at the church like we normally are, just kind of talking with friends, family, just fellowshipping after church as we normally do. And so it was basically just talking, passing time, but I wouldn't really wonder about him, just waiting on him to get back. And so at the church, and the phone rings at the church, and no one had got it. And so maybe about after the second or third ring, I went to answer the phone, because no one, like I said, had answered it. And so I answered the phone, and lo and behold, it's the paramedics on the phone. And they're stating that, "Hey, we're at your parents' house," basically, to give the address of my parents' house. And they said, "We're here with Charles Hill," which is my dad, "and we are here giving him CPR, and you need to get here fast." And it was like, wow, what? It was just kind of like I was in shock, really didn't know. And I was just kind of puzzled, just like, did I really just hear this right? And so I hang up the phone, and then I went and shared it, of course, with my mom and the rest of my family. It was like, hey, we just got a call from the paramedics. They're saying they're at the house giving dad CPR. And, it's just like crazy. This is like shock. And so I leave with my brother, my oldest brother, and we go to my parents' house, which is about 5 minutes away from the church. And by the time we get to the house, we see the ambulance going up the street. And so we kind of stop there, but then we leave to follow the ambulance because there was a hospital that was that was close nearby. So we figured that's where they're going. So we follow the ambulance, and we get to the hospital, and the rest of the family gets to the hospital, and we're just kind of waiting around, see what's going on. We don't know what's going on, and of course we're just there waiting. And I remember just not knowing anything, just feeling kind of lost and puzzled. I remember me and my oldest brother, we kind of prayed outside just because we just really didn't know what was going on. And we felt like that was the only thing that we could do. Of course, that's the best thing you can do in times like that. Just pray because you just don't know what's going on. But it was a very nervous situation. And of course, after waiting some time there at the hospital, we finally get the news that, my dad had passed. And, it was just shock and just unbelievable. Just like, wow, it's like this was so unexpected. I felt like this is happening at such a bad time. And I mean, and that's just kind of what death does. It catches you off guard, and it's just really nothing you can do. But I mean, this is my dad. This is my hero, my go-to guy, the person that I could talk to about anything. But he's gone. And so it was just really a shocker and just a very hard time. And, that was a really tough time in my life. And I will say that I am much better now. But of course, it's still hard, or it still hurts just to think about it. But, in due time and just with God's, his grace, and as they say, or as the scripture says, the peace that passes all understanding, it does help. And so after he's passed, of course, now I understand and I appreciate my father even much more. But I also understand that there are children who never grew up with their father. So they didn't experience having their father in their lives. And so I'm grateful for the time that I did have growing up with a father in my house, because I know that it helped me. I know it helped my siblings because it helped us to, stay out of trouble. And so although my father is no longer here, I'm grateful that I was blessed to have the opportunity to grow up with a father in my home, or in our home, which was such a blessing. And so, like I said, I know there are some children, some kids that grow up without a father. So even though my dad's gone, I was blessed. And so I'm appreciative of that. In Proverbs 20:26, it says to train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. Train up a child. That's what the scripture says. And when you look in hindsight of, in comparison or in contrast, I guess, to that of what we're seeing in our day and time, how impactful a father is, it's kind of mind blowing. But that scripture really proves it and shows how important it is for a father. I'll just read some statistics in regards to how impactful a father is. And I actually had the opportunity to be on another podcast, CJ Hawthorne's podcast, and About Faith podcast, which is a great podcast. I encourage some of you to go listen to his podcast. He has a great podcast that he talks and brings different guests on that tell their testimonies, and just great information of scripture and just faith and faith building. So if you are looking for a great Christian podcast, I'm going to encourage you to go check out CJ Hawthorne's podcast, About Faith, which is great. And so I just wanted to just throw that plug out there for him, because I had an opportunity to be on his podcast to read these statistics. And so in regards to how impactful a father is. And so one of these stats states that 85% of youth in prison come from fatherless homes. 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. Nearly 25 million children live without their biological father. 60% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. So just to show you how impactful a father is, those are stats for you. But of course, I read the scripture that tells us why it's important to train up a child. Of course, we know fathers can't do it by themselves. We know it also takes mothers as well. And there are some mothers out there that have raised their children by themselves, and they've raised great children. But I'm just showing you also the stats of what happens when a father is not in the home. So I just wanted to just kind of read that just to show you how beneficial and how impactful it is for a father being home, and also too just for how grateful I am, because I didn't know nothing about those stats when I was being raised, of course. But when I look at it now, it's like, wow, that's so amazing that you have fathers in homes that are really helping their homes. And so I'm appreciative, like I said, of my dad and just what he did. And so there are of course so many great things that I learned from my dad. But as I stated in this episode, I just wanted to just speak from some lessons of integrity that I learned from my father, as well as talk about why integrity matters. And of course, integrity is the practice of being honest and showing consistent and uncompromising adherence to strong moral and ethical principles and values. Integrity doesn't yield to bad influences, peer pressure, friends, or persons of status. Growing up, as I stated, you hear all of these instructions and guidance, like from your parents, but you don't really fully understand it or comprehend why it's being said. If you look back at those stats that I just read, that really adds up. But as I stated, when you're hearing these instructions as a child, you don't really understand why it's been said, but you just listen and you just follow, because that's the wise thing, that's the right thing to do, is to listen to your parents. But you don't realize how valuable it is until you're like grown or you have your own kids. And so I see that now, even with my kids. It's like, man, I am so appreciative of what I learned just growing up in our home, because it helps out now that I'm a parent to be able to help try to lead and instruct my children. And so one of the first lessons I want to tell you or state that I learned from my father was, don't hang around trouble. In other words, be careful with the people you hang around. My mom and dad would listen to sometimes conversations that we had in front of our house. When we grew up, of course, we played outside. Most of the times we was in front of our house. So my parents, they could have like the windows up and just kind of be watching us outside. In this day and time, of course, children, they may not play outside like we did growing up. Not only that, a lot of our children's friends, they may be virtual friends where they just met them online, or, they just talk to them only online, but they don't maybe have that relationship where they grew up together. I know some kids do, but in this day and time, I know it's a little different than when I grew up. But my parents, they could hear some of the conversations that we had outside in the front house, and they would know who we were hanging around, and they would tell us, hey, you know what, that person is probably not good for you. You don't need to hang around them anymore. And so when my dad says, don't hang around trouble, this is what he was saying, because when you hang around people that are not honest, those things could hurt you. Inside of integrity is honesty. And it did no good for me to be a good kid or an honest kid if I'm hanging around somebody that's causing trouble. Like my dad would say some of the times, he'd say, hey, if you hanging with people and they're in the store and they go steal something, and if they get caught, or if they catch up with this person that stole something, guess what? If you're with them, they're going to take you down too. And so these are the things that my dad would tell us, like, don't hang around trouble, because if you hang around trouble, or if you hang around people you can't trust, that can hurt you. So you really need to know the people that you're hanging around, because if I'm going to be somebody that's living in integrity and be honest, I don't want to center myself around people that I can't trust. This is what integrity teaches us. Integrity teaches us we not only have to live trustworthy lives, but we also should surround ourselves with people we can trust. Untrustworthy people, they'll lie, they'll cheat, even steal. Many times they may have wronged someone, which could bring trouble to your doorstep. So that's why you don't want to hang around people that you can't trust, because they could have did something to somebody else and you don't even know it. And before you know it, they're bringing that trouble to your doorstep. So you want to center yourself around people that you can trust. But that's a lesson that I learned from my dad, a lesson of integrity. Don't hang around trouble. So that's one of those things, like I said, that was great that my dad taught me, and I'm appreciative of it. And this is why you have to build relationships with people you can trust, because people you can't trust, you just never know what you're going to get, and you don't want to bring that negative attention to yourself. Lesson number 2 that I learned from my dad about integrity was don't play for keeps. Now, this is actually a lesson that was passed down from his dad, Robert Lee Hill Sr., which derived from actually a game of playing marbles. Now, of course, in this day and time, kids today probably don't know what playing marbles is, but before PlayStations and video games came out back in the day, we played outside. One of the games we played was playing with marbles, and of course, marbles was just some round balls. They were hard, marble-like, but you just made a circle. You put the marbles in the circle, and you took one of your marbles and you tried to thump your opponent's marbles out the circle. If your opponent knocked your marbles out the circle, you could collect those marbles that got knocked out. So it's kind of like you would, try to knock your opponent's marbles out the circle to collect all his marbles. Well, the lesson from my dad was don't play for keeps. And there was 2 ways to play marbles. So you could play for keeps or you could play for funsies. So the way we were supposed to play was play for funsies, because when you play for funsies, after the game, everybody gets their marbles back. But when you play for keeps, this is where your opponents could keep your marbles. So it was kind of like this was setting up seeds, or kind of like a gambling type way, because you're actually gambling your marbles away when you decided to play for keeps. And so my dad said, I don't want you playing for keeps, because you're actually going to be losing something. And there was actually some friends that actually played marbles, with money. So, my dad was really, he was looking out. So it's like he didn't want those seeds of gambling to set up in our hearts. And so not only that, but just imagine if I'm playing for keeps. My dad done told me don't play for keeps, but I'm playing for keeps and I lose my marbles, and I have to tell him, hey, guess what, Dad, I played for keeps and I lost my marbles, or I no longer get my marbles back. I would be in some serious trouble. And so the lesson of playing for keeps or don't play for keeps was like a gamble. And so my dad didn't want that to happen. Not only that, some kids, of course, if they lost their favorite marbles, they would get upset. So this could start fights, and this could get people mad and all this kind of stuff. So to avoid all of that, my dad says, don't play for keeps. So it sounds like playing marbles, it sounds like playing for keeps. It's an innocent game, but it really could lead to other things. And so integrity, or the lesson of integrity, and that is it teaches us, in order to build character, we have to listen to good instructions. And that was just good instructions. Don't play for keeps. Don't gamble. Don't put things in jeopardy that's of value to yourself. So that's something that, like I said, it sounds like something simple, but when you look at that, that could lead to other problems down the road. Lesson number 3 that I learned from my dad was stay away from easy and fast money. Of course, fast money is crooked or illegal money. And growing up, I can recall many classmates, many young people that I grew up with. Some of them tried selling drugs, or, selling things that were stolen, and they either end up in jail, or some of them are no longer here. I can even recall being on the bus in high school, riding home on the bus, and there was a young man or young kid that I went to school with. I didn't really know him that well, but I remember him asking me on the bus, hey, you want to sell some weed, or you want to sell drugs? And I was like, no. But just think about that. These type of opportunities are coming to some of our young people today, where, people are presenting them with these things of fast money, and a lot of children thinking that, oh yeah, I can go make this money, but it's a trap. And so my dad taught us that, hey, you know what, stay away from easy and fast money, because it could lead to other problems. You don't know what's tied to that. And of course, like I said, selling drugs or stealing, all those things just lead to trouble. And we really don't want to put ourselves in those type of situations. My dad would tell us, easy money will get you in trouble. He say, you need to get you a job where you can make honest money. And honest money is the best money. With honest money, you don't have to worry about people looking for you. You don't have to worry about the police coming to arrest you because that's money that you've earned honestly. Myself, I would rather lose my house, my cars, than to go get involved with some shady scheme or something that's going to cause me financial trouble. I would rather have a job making $10 an hour than making $1,000 from stolen goods or drug money. It just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. I just don't want to do that. I don't want to earn any type of money that doesn't belong to me. I don't want nothing that doesn't belong to me. And this is why integrity really matters and why we need more dads and moms to teach their children about integrity. Think about this. Would the jails be filling up if we had more dads, even moms, teaching their children about integrity, about not going after this fast and easy money? Would we have so many youth involved in gangs and drugs if they were taught about integrity? Think about that. Think about all the young people that's getting involved in gangs and drugs and all these type of things. Would they be doing that if they were taught that integrity matters, that the decisions and the choices that you make, they do matter? But these are the things that I learned from my dad. These are the lessons that I learned from my dad. And, I just wanted to share just some of this wisdom about what I learned because I'm appreciative of not only that, but it has helped me growing up. It has helped me now as me now being a parent. It's helping me now. And even, even now as I pass this on to, some of these lessons on to my children, it is so beneficial and it will help anybody's life. Integrity helps us in so many different ways. And so I know that just from some of these lessons, and like I said earlier, my dad taught us so much. But I just want to share just those 3 lessons of integrity because, it really helped me growing up to be the man that I am today. And I'm grateful. I know my siblings, they're grateful for my mom and my dad and how they raised us because it helped us now. And we can now really see what those things really meant growing up. Like I said, when you're young, you don't really understand everything. You just hear your parents saying, don't do this, don't do that. But listening to your parents and paying attention to what they say is really going to pay off in your life after a while. And so I just wanted to share that information in this episode. I would like to close now with 6 reasons as to why integrity matters, just to reinforce what I've already stated. Number 1, it takes only one wrong step to lead you on a downward spiral. Think about that. Only one wrong step. That's all it takes. A lot of times people get caught up into situations when you think about drugs or, how people get addicted to so many different things. Many times it was just one step that they made in the wrong direction. But that's all it takes is one step to lead you on a downward spiral. It takes only one wrong choice that could cause your reputation to be ruined for good. I mean, who wants a bad reputation? You don't want that. So all it takes is one wrong choice to mess up your reputation for good. And now with social media, I mean, things can just escalate until just a firestorm of trouble for you. So all it takes is one, though. And that's why integrity does matter. Number 3, being bad is contagious. We got enough bad examples in the world. We don't need any more bad examples. So that's another reason why integrity matters. Integrity, number 4, integrity will help you stand out in a good way. So we need people to stand out, not in a bad way, but we need people to stand out in a good way. Number 5, the more trustworthy you are, the more valuable you become. Trust will yield long-lasting opportunities and relationships. So trust will yield long-lasting opportunities and relationships that you can trust. Like I said earlier, you want to be centered around people you can trust, not people you can't trust. So that's what integrity will help yield for you. Number 6, and the final one, we need good leaders. We need men and women that are good, that are going to be led by example and consistently practice honesty and use strong moral and ethical principles. This is what we need. We need good leaders. As I said, Being bad is contagious. Well, being good is contagious too. And that's why we need good leaders so that it outweighs the bad. Not only that, but good leaders help cultivate and shape the minds of those that are following them, because they know that one day those that are following them are going to be leaders also. So that's why we need people that are going to be good examples. That's why we need leaders, good leaders, that can help shape the minds of those that are following them. And that's why integrity matters. And so I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Like I said, I know this is a little different than what I normally do. Normally we talk about business and different things like that, but integrity, it transcends all walks of life. Integrity should be used no matter where you are in life. Like I said, if you're an athlete, if you're a politician, if you are a pastor, preacher, if you're a mom or dad, all of us need to use integrity, because integrity helps build good character. Not only that, it's a great example for the world. It's sharing good with the world, and we need more good examples out there in the world. So again, I hope you enjoy this little episode. Like I said, I just wanted to share some lessons that I learned from my dad, just to give honor to him and to, what he shared for us growing up. And so I'm appreciative of the things that I learned from him, my mom. And, I'm just appreciative of what I've learned, because it has helped me to get to where I am today. So again, thanks for tuning in and listening to this episode. If you are not a subscriber of our podcast, I would encourage you to subscribe. We have some great episodes coming up. I got some great guests that I've had a chance to talk to, and so you don't want to miss some of these episodes that are coming up. So I encourage you to subscribe to this podcast. Also, if you would be so kind to give us a review on iTunes. This helps our ratings, and not only helps our ratings, but it helps other people discover our podcast. So if you could do that, I would be greatly appreciative of you. So that's it. That's all I have for this show. I want to say thanks again for listening, and we'll see you real soon on the